Episode 103. This week we cover A Matter of Honor. This one, not a bad episode. We learn much more about the Klingons in this episode. It starts out with Picard and Riker discussing a officer exchange program that Starfleet has initiated. The Enterprise on their way to pick up a Benzonite officer. And then Picard casually mentions how he would like someone from the Enterprise to be in the exchange program, and Riker volunteers. He says he'll do it, so Picard's like, well, there's a Klingon ship nearby, we'll put you on that. So Riker's all kinds of excited. He gets into the spirit of things by eating gawk and feasting on Klingon cuisine. Worf gives him this transponder, tells him if he gets into trouble on the ship, to hit the button, it'll contact the Enterprise, they can beam him off the Klingon ship back to the Enterprise because Worf's concerned due to the Klingons' way of doing things. He thinks they'll try to assassinate Riker in order to move up in rank. He doesn't think Riker's prepared for such things, but Riker thinks he'll be alright. They get to meet their officer. This Benzonite comes on. Wesley Crusher goes to meet him for no apparent reason whatsoever, and then he thinks it's the Benzonite officer he met at the Starfleet Academy entrance exams. He's like, Murdoch, how could you have possibly taken the exam again, passed it, got into Starfleet Academy, went all 4 years, graduated, and then get posted to the Enterprise in the span of a couple of months? And he's like, I'm not Murdoch, I'm Murdoch. And he's like, oh, okay. And so, this Benzonite officer, not a Starfleet officer, he's in the exchange program, so he's technically not with Starfleet, but he keeps explaining how his way of doing things is superior, and he wants to go straight to Captain Picard and report everything and be under his direct command. Picard has to explain to him, that's not how we do things. You must have misunderstood in your indoctrination course. You have to report to Mr. Worf, which was weird because Worf's a security officer. This Benzonite is a science officer. But the Enterprise meets with the Klingon ship. Riker beams aboard there, and this Benzonite guy sees that there's some sort of weird problem with the ship, like some sort of infestation on the outside of it. He doesn't say a word. Doesn't say a single word about it. Klingon ship goes on its way. Riker's got to brawl with the first officer because that's how they do things on the Klingon ship. Riker's hanging with the Klingons. He's got no real problems fitting into this crew. But then they discover this infestation on their ship. And the captain of the Klingon vessel's like, well, the Enterprise must have tried to destroy us. And Riker's like, well, why would they possibly want to do that, especially with their first officer on board? Klingon captain's like, I don't care, but I'll destroy the Enterprise before asking any questions. And they cloak themselves. They go after the Enterprise. Finally, the problem gets discovered on the Enterprise, and the Benzonite officer like, yeah, I knew that a long time ago, but I didn't say anything because I didn't have a solution to give you. And Picard gets mad all over again at this guy and tells him he's got to report things that are suspicious right away. That's how they handle things in Starfleet. And so this Benzonite guy, not making a good impression whatsoever, he's probably going to be asked to leave the ship at some point soon. So the Enterprise decides they'll go find the Klingon vessel and they'll help both ships get rid of this infestation. But the Klingon ship's cloaks were like, we should have seen them on the sensors, but they must be cloaked. We wonder why. When the Klingon ship decides to go to battle with the Enterprise, Riker's all kinds of nervous, but then he tricks the Klingon captain, has him beamed aboard the Enterprise, and then he takes command of the Klingon ship and tells Captain Picard to surrender or else. Picard surrenders immediately, and then they clear off this infestation, fix both ships, put the captain of the Klingon ship back on his own ship, and they part ways. that was pretty much what was going down here. Not a major episode, but it was interesting to learn a little more on the Klingons from this era of Star Trek. You got to see a lot more of their social hierarchy and so forth. Some interesting notes in this one. We saw live gawk eaten for the first time. That became a staple on all the Star Trek shows following this. And also, Brian Thompson of Longview, Washington, was the first officer of the Klingon ship. They were going to quietly replace him because the outfit didn't fit him properly. So they were just going to find an actor for whom the outfit did fit. Brian Thompson got wind of it, told them, I'll make the modifications myself, just don't fire me. They allowed it, and so Brian Thompson of Longview, Washington got to stay in the role of the Klingon first officer, the one that brawled with Riker. But pretty much that's episode 103.